Hello, BookTube. I want to make a response video here to a video that I saw recently. Maybe it showed up in your feed as well. It was from the BookTube channel Diary of a Viking. And it was called The Dark Side of BookTube. And when I saw it, he has a large channel, a wonderful channel. And when I saw this video, it had several thousand views on it. A lot of people are seeing this. It was also full of comments in the comments field. So I feel that it has a reach enough to warrant a response from me to the people that watch this channel. It's a response video of a type that you've seen me make before. In response to videos like this, in response to videos talking about how horrible BookTube is, how much work it is, how much of a grind it is, how it wears people out and burns them out and makes them leave, the host of Diary of a Viking starts his video with a montage of various BookTubers who have made videos over the months or the years declaring that they are leaving BookTube, that it's just too much. He goes over some of those videos, refers to some of them, shows you clips from some of them. I'll leave a link to his video down below, and draws from them a series of complaints. He boils down a lot of those farewell videos into the reasons why, and talks about some of the reasons himself, like, for instance, that having a BookTube channel is seriously demanding. That it is just, that comes up over and over again in his video, that having a BookTube channel is very, very demanding. At one point he says, it's hard to be a BookTuber. It's hard to do that. That sentiment runs throughout his video as he goes over his 4 takeaway points for what he calls the dark side of BookTube. Number 1 being burnout, because it's so hard to do. Because you pour 15, 16 hours of filming and editing and equipment and titling and thumbnailing into a video, and then it sinks like a stone and no one pays any attention to it. Thing number 2 is lack of diversity. Here he references a BookTuber I wasn't familiar with, talking about how there aren't enough black BookTubers. Then the third thing that he talks about is that BookTube, another dark side of BookTube is that it tends to create an unhealthy way of looking at reading. And this note comes up a few times in his video as well, that one of the hallmarks of that unhealthy way of looking at reading would be as a contest. Which actually snagged my attention, for this whole subject would have snagged my attention anyway, but that really did, because just yesterday I made a video about or just the other day, I made a video about, is BookTube pushing you to read too much? And that sort of dovetails with what one of the points that comes up in his video is does it create an unhealthy way of looking at reading? Is it making you feel like reading is a contest, or that you don't read enough books? Is it making you feel bad about your own reading pace or the kinds of books you read? And then the 4th dark side of BookTube is connected with that, which is that it creates a consumerist attitude. It starts to create, this dark side of BookTube starts to create a darker, grubbier, unhealthy way, consumerist way of looking at these things, that you need to get more books, that you need to show them more, that you need a better camera or whatnot. He mentions those 4 dark sides of BookTube, stresses throughout his video that he loves BookTube, and that he indulges himself in a lot of the things that could easily be viewed as these dark sides, but does it in a positive way. Watching his channel, I can certainly attest to that. You aren't going to get the dark side of BookTube when you watch Diary of a Viking. It's a wonderful, inviting channel, hence its success. I watched this and I wanted to make a response to it. In order to, despite the fact that I love the channel Diary of a Viking, in order to completely refute every point that's made in the video. I basically want to, as usual when I make this kind of a video, I want to completely refute every point in the video. I want to make sure to stress to anyone who's watching his video, who might also watch this video, that nothing he says in his video is true. Nothing. All of the things that he mentions, burnout, we'll get to lack of diversity, unhealthy way of looking at reading, a hyper-consumerist way of looking at reading, all of those things are faults, not of BookTube, but of you, of people. Those are faults of people. BookTube, as a platform, as a community can 100% entirely be indulged in without any of those things. It's easy to do. It is easy to sidestep those things. The diversity question is another thing. It is, of course, something that's going to come up in the 21st century. It is, of course, a hot button issue. I want to point out here only that the young woman whose video he excerpts on the heading of the lack of diversity in BookTube is not talking about the lack of diversity. She's talking about the lack of millionaires. Her specific complaint is that there are black booktubers on the platform, and yet no one has 100,000 subscribers yet. She actually uses that word like there's some sort of timetable. That is not a complaint about a lack of diversity. That is vanity. That is greed. It's not anything else. There are almost no booktubers that have 100,000 subscribers, no matter what color their skin is. Coming onto BookTube and starting at some sort of clock, I can't believe it, haven't hit 100K yet, it's kind of misunderstanding the basis of the whole thing, I think. But we can leave that aside. There are a lot of, what would we call them? Any kind of minority BookTube channels. There are a lot of them. There are no Schnauzer booktubers, unfortunately. There are a lot of them. It's true that none of them have 100,000 subscribers. That would be true across the board. For any kind of ethnic group, any kind of social group, that would be true across the board. And bespeaks, it points to an attitude that underlies and undercuts the other dark sides of BookTube. Burnout is you doing that to you. I have watched a lot of the I'm Leaving BookTube videos that Diary of a Viking actually cites in his own video. I've watched a lot of them, and as well-spoken and reasonable as a lot of them would be, you can watch them too. Maybe your interpretation will be different, but I watched them when they were coming out, and my only thought was, well, if you don't like all these things that you're doing to yourself, why don't you change what you're doing to yourself or stop doing those things to yourself? If you come into BookTube looking to make money or be a hugely influential influencer, well, you have made a mistake. You have allowed your greed and your vanity to make you make a mistake. You have made a mistake. This is obviously not a place to come for those things. It happens to one or two people, but it's not going to happen to you. Overwhelmingly, odds are that it's not going to happen to you. So if you came in here expecting that, you made a mistake. That's not BookTube's fault. That's your fault for indulging in what, in my day, used to be referred to as vices. To say nothing of mortal sins. Greed and vanity are wrong. They're bad. You shouldn't indulge in them. If you do indulge in them, despite the fact that it's a quintessentially 21st century thing to do, it is fundamentally unfair to blame the platform for you doing that yourself. Same thing with a consumerist attitude or with an unhealthy way of looking at reading. Diary of a Viking mentions that BookTube is constantly encouraging you to read more, constantly brainwashing you into the importance of numbers, a number game. Show me a BookTube channel anywhere that does that. Anywhere. Show me one BookTube channel that does that. They don't exist. No BookTube channel has ever done that. No BookTuber has ever got in front of a camera and said, come on guys, read more. Even I don't do that. When I get questions from all of you saying, how can I read more? I'm happy to answer. Prioritize reading. Stop self-vocalizing. If that's your goal, to read more, well, there are ways to do that. But I don't say you should at all. No booktuber does. No one. That is just a straw man. That is just people who are on this platform wanting fame or money, or both, so greed or vanity, not getting it, and then backtracking to rationalize the fact that they didn't get what they don't want to admit they wanted. I don't mean to be a father confessor here, but if you have to set up a straw man to make the point about a dark side of BookTube, it's just possible that BookTube doesn't have any dark sides that booktubers don't bring to it. I want to make the same point here that I have made in this kind of response video to other videos over the years. BookTube is not demanding, and making BookTube videos is most certainly not hard. It is most certainly not hard to do this. I saw people in his comments saying either I've just started a BookTube channel but I'm getting out for the reasons that you mentioned here, or I was thinking about it, I'm not going to do it. I want at least some of those people to have a chance of finding this video and get a different perspective, because the vision of BookTube that he's giving you is false. BookTube is not some sort of high-tech, cutthroat rat race where you need to be making enough money to hire an editor to make a lying thumbnail or a clickbait title. It's not that at all. It doesn't need to be that. If you want it, if you go into it wanting that, well, that's you. That's entirely on you. If you go into it wanting to make a killing and you don't make a killing, you have no one to blame but yourself for either the failure to make a killing or the wanting to make a killing. You're responsible for all of it. You can't, obviously you can, because almost all the booktubers I've seen who make sententious, very narcissistic, I'm leaving booktube videos are guilty of exactly what I'm describing. They came in with ridiculous expectations, didn't meet them, and are now blaming the platform. No, this is not hard at all. Diary of a Viking says it's so demoralizing to spend 15 hours working on a video and then you post it and no one cares about it and it sinks like a stone. What's the alternative to that? Instead of turning around and making a portentous video about the dark side of BookTube, what's the alternative to that? What might solve that scenario? Don't spend 15 hours on a video. Don't do that until you have the audience that might justify that. I would argue that no audience ever does, but certainly having no audience, if there's a chance that your video that you work 15 hours on will sink like a stone, then don't work 15 hours on that video. All of this is theater. All of this is self-created. All you need in order to make a BookTube video is reading and a camera. You're already reading or you wouldn't be watching these videos, and because it's the 21st century, you have a perfectly serviceable camera within reach of you right now while you're watching this video. Those are the only two things you need. You do not need to edit your videos. You do not need to constantly, oh my God, it's such a churn, you'd better go out and buy 10 more books. What's that you say? You're spending your kids' food money? Spend it anyway. Well, this is a merciless grind, kid. You're going to get into this business, you got to know that. It's brutal. It's so demanding. It isn't. It isn't demanding at all. It isn't. This is entirely created straw man drama. This is actually not only easy, but lots of fun. This is easy and lots of fun. There is no one out there in the BookTube world demanding that you be more consumeristic. There is no one out there in the BookTube world demanding that you read more books. Come on, why haven't you read more books? And the only burnout that's going to happen is if you burn yourself out. Simple as that. All you need to do is read and then turn on your camera, talk about what you've read, maybe what it made you think, maybe why you read it, where did you find it, did you get it out of the library? You don't have to spend any money. Did you get it out of the library? Did you go to a thrift store and spend $1 on it? Why did you do that? What did you think of it? Have you ever read anything like it? Do you remember any BookTube channels that talked about it? The community of BookTube, which is hardly mentioned at all in Diary of a Viking's video, the community of BookTube will embrace you if you do that. You do that. Maybe make sure, that there's not rotting garbage in the background behind you. That's not hard to do. It takes about a minute to find a background. You do not need a huge wall of books behind you. You do not need that. You do not need any kind of status symbol. That is simply a lie. No one on BookTube has ever said you need those things. No one has ever said you need to pay an editor. No one has ever done anything like that. It's just a straw man. All you need to do is have a bookish life and have a camera. Maybe do a tag. Maybe join a book club and mention in someone's comments field, hey, I love this kind of reading. I'm going to join in because I just started a BookTube channel. You will be embraced. Almost certainly, you will be embraced. And you might gain subscribers. You won't get 100,000 subscribers. No matter how you're embraced, you won't do that. That almost never happens. For you to come onto a platform like BookTube about books, for God's sake, no, Diary of a Viking says no one reads, and he's right, no one does. For you to come on a platform like that and start the clock, I don't have 100K subscribers yet, I think I'm going to leave in high dudgeon. Okay. As the kids say, you do you. But that was an irrational reaction on your part, an irrational expectation from the beginning. Instead, if you come onto BookTube and you just want to talk about books, and you're not trying to game a system or be an influencer or be, a million-follower TikToker or anything like that, if you're just coming on to talk about books, then it's the easiest thing in the world, and there's no grind to it at all. None. It's not seriously demanding. It's not going to wear you out. You're never going to experience burnout or the dark sides of BookTube. Instead, you're going to make friends and have a lot of fun. Feel like uploading a video once a week? You don't need to keep a schedule. No one's paying attention. No one's demanding that you do. You don't have to say, I mean, I'm going to make a video every Wednesday, but here it is Wednesday morning, and I don't have anything I really want to talk about, and I've also got a wedding to go to, and my kid's colicky, and I'm going to have to ignore all of that because, I'm in this rat race. I'm in this grind. I've got to do it. No one is doing anything like that. No one is saying anything like that. So don't you say it, and you'll be fine. So, that is my response to Diary of a Viking's video about the dark side of BookTube. The dark side of BookTube is not real. It does not exist. All you do, I know that a lot of you have felt something like this with, if you're a booktuber, needing to get the content out and maybe it detracting from your reading. Or if you're not a booktube, you don't make content, but you are a part of the BookTube community, you leave comments, you watch videos and whatnot, maybe feeling that watching someone read a lot of books or get a lot of books is pressuring you to read a lot of books and get more books. And in the comments that I have got from making that kind of a discussion video just recently myself, I've heard from so many people saying, yeah, I felt that way until I realized how dumb that was. I've heard from so many people, hundreds of people by now, saying essentially what I've said, which is that, yeah, I started to feel that way, and then I realized no one was asking me to feel that way. I just did that on my own. And so I stopped on my own. Okay. That's true. All of the negatives in the dark side of BookTube are greed and vanity, and or competitiveness. And they're coming from you. They're not coming from BookTube. You can do this without any of those things and have a blast. I strongly urge you to, especially if you watched the video from Diary of a Viking, were on the fence a little and allowed him to push you off the fence. Allowed him to say, oh, well, he's describing something that is nothing short of a nightmare. It's true that in his own video he says that he loves BookTube. But what he describes in his video is nothing short of a nightmare. I want to say that, like true nightmares, that picture is not real. You can wake up. You can just wake up and enjoy yourself. Turn the camera on yourself. Tell us about your pets. Tell us about your reading life. Maybe do a tag. Maybe announce, I saw this reading event. God knows there's plenty of them in March. And I love the idea. It's one of my favorite things to do. It might not happen immediately, but sooner or later the community will find you. When it does, you will make friends. You will gain a few subscribers. You will not gain 100,000 subscribers. But the community will find you, the community will welcome you, and people will start to notice what you're doing. If you're here for more than that, you're in the wrong place. If you're looking for that, you will find it. What other YouTube community can guarantee that? If you're looking for those things, those normal human things, they will happen. And I urge you to look for them. I urge you to take the chance here. I'm urging this as a kind of counterpoint to Diary of a Viking's video, which he ends it with a cheerleading note. He is an enthusiastic booktuber, but nevertheless, if you watch his video, you might, and you were on the fence, you might be scared away from doing this. You shouldn't be. It's very, very enjoyable. There was a lot of sympathizing with the dark side of BookTube in his comments field, and I didn't leave any comment of my own, but I disagree, of course, with all of those comments. All of this is stuff. The dark side is you're bringing it there yourself. It doesn't exist for BookTube on its own. But I can end this response video with a response that I would have made if I didn't want to stir up a hornet's nest, which is that one person in his comments field left a comment, an incredulous comment, saying, "How can anyone read 40 books a month?" And there were many, many responses to that comment saying, of course they can't. Of course they can't. They're just lying. It's audiobooks on 3 times speed. So I'll end my little response video here by saying that at least we can agree on this. I legitimately ask and have asked my whole life the question, how can anyone read 40 books a month? So there, we agree on that. So I'll wrap this up by addressing my final comment directly to any of you who are on the fence about this. Go to Diary of a Viking's channel. Subscribe to it. It's a wonderful channel. But completely ignore the video I'm linking down below. You can watch it, but it's all wrong. All of it is false. So completely ignore the dark side of BookTube. Just pay attention to the rest of his content that is so much fun that it itself acts as a complete refutation of any dark side of BookTube. Come to the platform for what it's delivering. Okay? Come to the platform for its own potential. You bring unrealistic, greedy, or vain potential to it, you have no one to blame but yourself. Sorry to sound like a Catholic school teacher. I'll wrap this up now that I've hit that note. How can anyone read 40 books a month? I do not know. Anyway, I'll wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.